Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about comic books, TV shows, and movies. And boy, do we have a big one for you today. The time has come. Spider-Man No Way Home has finally dropped, and we're here to drop that video for you guys, like we said we were. So, before we get into all the details about it, let us do the same thing we do all the time. We're definitely shaming Yendi for not watching the content that we watch, especially this movie. So,
Uh, Shame.
shame.
I mean, I think we have a chance. I think
I think he eventually.
I think we
gonna
piqued
watch
his
it,
interest, and he's gonna eventually watch it. Just not.
but I
with the
mean,
rest
he
of us.
should have seen it already.
Also, I think he's
and
gonna
that's how
see
I
all
feel.
the spoilers and stuff like that, and be like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
I don't need to watch it.
I
No,
don't need to
no,
watch
no."
it anymore. Yeah, he needs to go watch it. But anyway, before we get started again, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. We are still giving a mouse away. I think at the time of this recording, we are 19 subs away. So tell your friends, let everyone know. If one of you tell each friends, that means we'll double our number. So let's make it happen. All right. Now
Oh,
let's talk.
real quick.
Oh yeah, for
Very,
sure.
very big spoilers. If you have not
All
seen
the
it yet.
spoilers
Also,
are coming in this one.
I'm gonna add one more shame to this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
shaming TikTok because as soon as I finished the movie, I stayed off of TikTok until the movie. All social media, right? I think Twitter and Facebook have been good from what I've seen, but as soon as I went on TikTok, I saw at least 4 to 5 videos of clips, very, very important clips that ruin the surprise in TikTok of somebody just capturing it on TikTok so they can go famous. And your videos probably got, if there was a dislike button, you would have thousands of dislikes. Nobody likes you. Okay? And shame on TikTok.
Yeah, shame. I mean, for sure. And shame on the people who like to spoil stuff. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, guys, like, it's really just not cool. And I mean, there is it is a halfway thing, right? Because at this point, you have to know you can't go on social media when this movie is coming out, because people will just say this just so that they can get a bunch of likes and people will start commenting on their stuff. But seriously, it's just chill. Like, let people enjoy the movie. Stop telling people that what happens in the movie. And again, if you guys haven't watched the movie, please, don't watch this yet if you care about spoilers. But after you watch it, please come check us out so we could discuss it and let us know what you guys think in the comments. So let's get straight into it. Chris, I don't even have to say anything. I already know how you feel, but let the audience know how you feel.
I almost just started crying. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna be the first LPF that I cry, or debrief that I cry on, because this movie, I'm calling it now, is my favorite movie of all time. Like, it is that good. I was like, 30 minutes, 40 minutes into the movie, I'm like, why is this so good? This is too perfect. And then it kept going. I'm like, this is really too perfect. It's too much. This movie was fantastic. I love it so much. I cried more in this movie than any other movie, more than Endgame. Endgame, I teared up, but this one had me boohoo crying. We'll get to that scene later on. But it was like, and you can ask my wife too. Bree doesn't really see, she knows I don't really cry in front of her. I get emotional sometimes. I get teary-eyed during movies, and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And she looked over at me at this one, and I'm like, like full on crying. So they did an awesome job, man. They did an awesome job. The end credit scenes were awesome. They did something new with the second one, which we will get to. I know
I have a big gripe about.
I know.
I had to stop watching it.
I immediately thought about you as soon as I saw it, and I was like, "Oh no, this."
I was pissed. I will talk about that, but I was very upset, and I'm thankful that I stopped myself from watching it because I noticed what it was.
They knew about they've been watching the debrief, so I'm like, I'm gonna get this, man. They sent them after you. But 10 out of 10. Actually, I give it an 8 turned sideways, which is infinity out of 10. It's so good. Loved it. Movie of the year. Best movie of all time for me right now. So what did you think of it?
This movie was fantastic, and there's really no other way. To describe this movie, you need to just use all the Spider-Man adjectives. So spectacular, amazing, all that stuff. Because I was just talking about this because I've seen it already. I think it's 3 times already. So at this point, the thing that I was saying, and I talked to my brother about this, and because he's a huge Spider-Man fan, and I talked about like I have a chat with him and one of my other good friends, and I was pretty much talking about our first reactions and essentially being it like where to rank this, and I was like, well, it's too early to rank after watching those other movies we've watched over like 10 times, right? And after watching it the third time, because I had an interesting Saturday, but after watching it again, I am going. I think it's safe to say that I think I'm going to find this to be the best Spider-Man of all time, and the reason being is because of expectation. Right. My current favorite Spider-Man movie of all time is Into the Spider-Verse, but going into this, going into the Spider-Verse, we didn't have any expectations. We went in there going, "Oh, they're making this animated movie. I'm curious to see how it is." And then obviously it exceeded our expectation because it was so good, but we also didn't have any expectation levels. This movie, no matter how you went into it, you went into this movie with a level of expectation because it's the MCU and because of all the rumors and the possibilities of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And what did they do? Not only was it exceeded my expectations, even though I had expectations for it. Like I personally, and you guys will hear it on this show, I've said that I knew pretty much everything that was going to happen in this movie. I called the Matt Murdock thing from Far From Home. I was like, the way to bring Matt Murdock back is to have him become Spider-Man's lawyer. Like that's the best way to do it. They did it, and I still freaked out even though I knew, like just the fact of being able to see it just made me like, that was one of my favorite moments. He was literally on screen for 45 seconds and he was amazing. He was just
He
like,
looks
you're gonna
so
need
good,
a good,
man. He looks so good. I saw him. I was like, my boy, it's on the
like
big screen. Come
you're just
on.
gonna need a good lawyer. And then like, Peter, see, like the brick comes flying in
And
and
he
then he
catches
catches it obviously without looking. And then Peter's like, how'd you do that? He's like, I'm a good lawyer. Like, he's just, Charlie Cox literally is Matt Murdock, and I love every second of it. And if you guys haven't watched Hawkeye, go check out the debrief on that. There was another big character. I won't say it in here because this is not
Just
a
in case,
Hawkeye
yes.
spoiler.
Yeah.
But go check that out. But it's awesome that they did that. And I feel like just having this whole thing like come together was amazing, and you could tell what was going to happen, right? Because you got, like, again, like I said earlier, when I don't remember what episode I said this in, but basically you had all of these villains rights, right? And all the rights to the villains that have been in all the other Spider-Mans. So you kind of knew, listen, we're going to get these other guys, right? Like there's no way you sign a contract and don't get these other guys and it wouldn't be possible, even though, and here comes a spoiler, it turned back if you want to now. But even though Andrew Garfield sat there and lied to us, we knew damn well he was in this movie. And I think the biggest concern that everybody did have was Toby, right? Because I feel like no one actually knew how Toby felt, or he wasn't speaking. Like, you know what I mean? He didn't say anything about it. So
he just kept, I mean, to be fair, I think he just kind of stayed the same. He's just like, I've been off the grid. I do my movies.
Yeah.
And then I'm out. And I think he just kept, I think if he changed his pace at all,
yeah,
it would have gave it
people
away.
would have picked up on it.
Yeah.
So Andrew just, is basically saying, listen, like, I'm not in this movie. I mean, even Charlie Cox was like, Charlie Cox never said that he wasn't in the movie. What he said was that wasn't my forearm. Remember? He said that because remember the trailer. Now that I've watched, no, yeah. If you watch back the trailer, this scene's actually not even in the movie. But just for everyone who doesn't know, I do watch the trailers after the movie comes out just to see what they're like. And remember when there is a guy who slams on the table while they're in the interrogation room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're in the interrogation room talking to Peter, and he's like he puts his hands on the table, and everyone was like, "That's Charlie Cox's forearm." And then Charlie Cox was like, "No, that's not my forearm." Like,
also at the same time, he was like, "Jesus, man, like, these guys are crazy."
So yeah, so I mean, just having him there, it again bringing them both back was just like that final piece of the puzzle. But they still had to make a great movie, and as much as all of those things happened in that movie, as much things as that happened, it still felt like Tom Holland's Peter Parker's movie, right? Like even though all those characters were in it and there was a lot of things going on, it still felt like this was the growth of Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And I loved every second that they did that, because I feel like you had 3 movies and at some point Peter has to become a man. And I mean, as a character who hasn't been a high school like in high school for the longest, because most of the comics have already passed that like a long time ago, and to finally get that growth of Peter Parker and the way that they did it was so rewarding. Just everything, like his relationship with MJ, the sacrifice that he had to give up, because like what I always said about the Tom Holland one is because they essentially skip Uncle Ben's death, is that he never had something that he felt responsible for, right? Like Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, had the responsibility of Gwen, right? Like that ate up at him. And then you had Toby's Spider-Man, who had Uncle Ben's killer, right?
Yeah.
As close as Peter, as Tom Holland's Peter was to Iron Man, to Tony, he wasn't responsible for that death. Like, you know what I mean? So even though they tried to make Tony the Uncle Ben, like essentially like the on-screen Uncle Ben, that wasn't his fault because Tony essentially sacrificed himself, right?
Yeah.
But when we go to, and I'm just going over the place, but when we get to Aunt May's death, right? Like we get to Aunt May's death, he's responsible for that because he went to Doctor Strange to try to get everyone to forget this, and then the spell went crazy and all this stuff happened, and essentially that was his burden that he had to deal with, and dealing with this multiverse was all his fault essentially. So it was good to see him grow from that and even make that final decision where he's like, everyone needs to forget me. And then he's like, are you sure? And he's like, yes. And Peter Parker finally makes a decision that he had to make because of a responsibility that he had. And I think that's why this movie is like A1 perfection. So
going back all the way to the beginning, I loved I loved how they made you feel throughout. When everybody found out that he was, Peter Parker Spider-Man, and they're crowding him and everything, they did a really good job of feeling like the whole movie. I felt like I felt what Tom Holland was feeling. Like I feel very uncomfortable. Everybody's pressuring me. Like I feel the pressure. You feel the closeness of everybody watching you. I love that. The scene of my guy Happy losing Aunt May, the breakup. I was like, man, that hurts.
Yeah,
I was like, I know that hurts.
Yeah, it was a rough
but
one.
yeah, like just getting them back into reality was so cool to see. In Hannibal Buress, completely forgot that he's part of the Spider-Man world.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was like, they were like, oh, you're a hero, and he's like, and a murderer. I was like, yes, this is who he is as a person. At least like, him defending Mysterio and everything like that. I thought it was an awesome thing to see, and the way Jameson just came in perfectly. How on track he was to keep up with Spider-Man, and he actually was, I guess you could say, just adding gas to the fire the whole time of what Mysterio left behind. Mysterio just kind of started it, and Jameson just literally took it and just kept running with it. So every time Spider-Man did something wrong or tried to do something right, he was there to make it fall apart.
Yeah, and that's always been JJ's job, right?
Yeah.
He's always been calling Spider-Man a menace and all those good things. And one of the good things I love about this movie also is that we started right where we left off.
Yep.
At the end of Far From Home. So basically he gets his identity revealed, and that is also pulled from one of the major Spider-Man stories, because in Civil War, actually in the comic books, is when Spider-Man actually reveals himself and tells himself. So like I said, I always say that I love that Marvel, they don't follow the stories like to the T, but they do take like some of the best parts of some of those stories. So they took that Spider-Man dialogue and that Spider-Man thing where he gives like his identity is revealed. They did it a different way, but that's the way like he revealed, and then obviously his world goes crazy. Because even in the comic book, when he does reveal himself, the first thing Green Goblin does is go kill Aunt May. So because he's like, oh, I know who you are. Like I know what hurts you. And then basically they get into that whole death, and that was one of the major story points of One More Day, which is the story in the comic books that Peter makes a deal with Mephisto, who is not in the movie, even though everybody wants him
Oh
to
my
be.
god, everybody's just
At this point, it's just going to be he's going to show up like 5 or 10 years from now.
yeah, when everybody forgets about it, it's like it's him.
Because everyone's like, it's Doctor Strange Mephisto. Like, and it's like, no, like this is just what happens. And
well, I think it's because of in the trailer, Wong tells him, he's like, Strange, don't do that spell, right? He tells him that, and then in the actual movie, he's just like, yeah, okay. He's like, just leave me out of it. So I was just like, oh wait, this is different. So that was one of the big changes that I noticed very quickly.
Well, one of the things about trailers, Marvel is trying to throw people off.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, again, I go back to what I said. I felt like if you wanted to try to do a movie that didn't need a trailer, I feel like this could have been the one.
This was it.
Because if you watch some of those trailers, they are very misleading, right? And with the way that we get our information now, at least the majority, and I understand who these trailers are for. I'm not saying you have to get rid of them completely, but I do want to know what the data is if you don't show a trailer to a movie like this. Like, you know what I mean? To a movie that has this built up hype where you might potentially see the 2 other Spider-Mans from a different universe. You kind of had what your theories and things like that were going to be. I feel like it would have been very interesting for Marvel and Sony to be like, listen, maybe we shouldn't drop the trailer. Maybe everyone should go in there fresh. And I understand that I'm a person who doesn't watch trailers, so I don't get I do get where other people are like, oh, I need to watch that just so I can get my. But for me personally, I feel like we will never know because we will never have that data. And to say that it wouldn't work, I feel like is disingenuous because it's like you're saying it wouldn't work, but we're in a completely different time than we used to be in. Like, you know what I mean? Like trailers, I feel like are just things that how many people have standard TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of people out there who have a standard TV who are watching cable as much as they used to. Like maybe they'll watch a stream and, oh, I saw this Spider-Man thing or whatever. But most of the time, people have shown that they will show up to the movies depending on what the movie is.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, I watched this movie on a Thursday at 3 p.m. and that movie theater was packed. I'm talking about there was nowhere you could park. It was packed. So I don't want to hear this whole the people were excited for this. People had their Spider-Man shirts on. When we got out of the movie, it was 6 o'clock and you could not get into that movie theater. That's how packed it was. So I would have loved to seen them try to do it without a trailer for this movie. So that was one of my things.
Yeah, man. I think it would have been perfect. Without the trailer, everybody going in blind, it would have been a beautiful thing. Going on to the villains showing up.
Oh yeah,
Doc Ock was fantastic. Oh my god,
Molina is just one of those guys. Like again, Spider-Man 2 is held to such a high standard. Alfred Molina was amazing in that movie. I know I probably froze. It's okay. We can keep it going.
All right, cool. You'll come back.
Yeah, but so Alfred Molina was one of those reasons why we all loved that movie, right? Because Spider-Man 2, where Spider-Man 2's greatness is Alfred Molina was amazing, and it had some of the best Spider-Man moments. In that movie, you have the train scene, you know what I mean? That's what makes that movie. Because when you think about some of the Peter Parker stuff that happens in Spider-Man 2, there's not really oh my god, this was amazing what happened to Peter. It's the Spider-Man moments and Alfred Molina, because that fight scene, the train fight scene, is one of the best fight scenes ever.
It is, yeah.
So it's just one of those things that that's why once he was announced, I was like, well, I was like, thank you. We're going to get one of the best villains that Spider-Man has had. And even when you even think about it, even in Into the Spider-Verse. Like the Doc Ock Into the Spider-Verse was amazing. It's just a naturally great character.
Yeah. But the fact that he's so angry the whole time, and one of my favorite moments is like whenever Ned and MJ show up and they're all in the chamber. He's like, "Who the hell are they?" He's like, "Oh, it's my friend Ned," and I'm like, "Why? Why are you explaining this to them?" He's getting so upset because he's like, "Why are all these people here? Like, what is happening?"
Because he was into a fight, he had his machine, and you obviously know he didn't have the chip thing anymore. Yeah. I thought it was hilarious when they were all in there and they were like, "So what's your name anyway?" He's like, "Dr. Otto Octavius," and everyone was like,
"No, really, what is it?"
Yeah. And then I love the other scene where she's like, "Freshwater or salt?" She's like, because you're.
Oh yeah. He's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, water."
She's fresh. She's like, fresh. I guess it's fresh.
But I mean, I don't blame her because in her world, you would want to be like, I live in salt water.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but also like think about the crazy things that are going on in the universe. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're literally had this whole thing where a purple alien essentially like snapped people away. Okay. Now you have people who are from a different universe, like not even like within your time, like universe. Like these people are from a different place in time and they know a different Spider-Man, not you as Peter Parker. Like imagine having to wrap that around your head is like, there's a different Peter Parker. And then going into that, like you just get all those villains and then, getting that, Tom Holland's getting that gunk on his thing and flipping his costume inside out was hilarious to go fight, Jamie Foxx, and we get another character to come back. And what they did with Electrode, I love this, and this is later on in the movie, when he gets the arc reactor.
Oh, yes.
And they put the costume through the electricity instead of giving him a traditional costume. They gave him the costume with the electricity. I was freaking out because that was like, oh my God, I can't believe the way they pulled that off. And I thought that was so cool.
Also, spotlight on freaking Green Goblin, man. Wonderful. This one, bro, he top villain right now. For me, I was just like, Jesus Christ. Like this guy, I love the fact that he broke the mask and he had the hood on and just how much he did not care. Like he's just like, I'm going to literally destroy everybody. It's not a game anymore. Like I'm going to show you what's up. And he definitely does a great job doing that to the point where the whole time I'm excited for Green Goblin. He looks great and everything. And the whole time in the movie, as I'm like trying to be a fan, I'm like, dude, I really hate this guy. Like, oh my God, he's awful. Just a terrible person. But man, I could not get enough out of him. He was very cold in this movie.
William Dafoe is just one of those actors who are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
There isn't a thing that I like William Dafoe personally, like with his performances, that I have not enjoyed. He is one of those guys who just can get into the character and he can play the role so well. And this is one of the things that he said was like, he even did his own stunts.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that he said was he would not come back if he was not able to do his own stunts. He literally said that. He was like, one of my stipulations is I have to do my own stuff. And he's 66. Okay. So the dude is just simply amazing, man. The dude is so good. Like William Dafoe is just an amazing. And let's talk about how much I loved his fighting style in this. This man went into a straight wrestling style that I didn't know he had. He was power bombing people. He was spine bustering.
When he went through the build, like when he grabs Spider-Man, like grabs him from the window, flips and then just knees and just I was like, oh my God.
And it was just so many good things that happened in this movie. And I mean, like, it also showed like how much better Peter's fighting style got. Like even within that whole fight, like his awareness was so much better. I loved how they used the spider sense in this also, where like when they were all in the same room, when he's trying to cure them or trying to fix them because Aunt May is like, we have to help them. And him noticing that Green Goblin was changing, that, that Norman was changing. And he was just like, he could sense it. he didn't know exactly what it was yet, but he could sense it. And just the way that they did that and the way he shot his web, and it was just like, oh snap, like that was like, it was so amazing. Like I'm literally can't think of a single thing that I would change in this movie. Like that's how much I've enjoyed this movie, how much it was just, again, going in with a level of expectation to have all these characters in it and to succeed that expectation. I mean, let's get straight to when freaking we get the other two Spider-Mans. I mean, just the way that they did it, because oh wait, before we get there, I want to talk about how amazing the Doctor Strange and Spider-Man fight was in the Mirrorverse, because that was simply amazing. Like he was just like, they were fighting that whole time, and obviously you're in Doctor Strange's kind of world, and then Peter, which I love that they showed in this movie more, is that they showed the smartness of Peter Parker.
Yeah,
Like
and the
they showed how smart he should be, and he was just like, what? The mirror world is just geometry. And then like he does this whole thing, and then he actually traps Doctor Strange in the Mirrorverse, which is like awesome. And then
when
Ned
he gets out of the
ring.
portal, he's like,
Yeah.
I fought Doctor Strange, I totally won. I was like, what?
Yeah, because he's still a kid, and like he knows the power of Doctor Strange, right? Because he's seen it. He was on there when they fought Thanos.
Yeah,
like he saw all that crazy stuff. So he totally wins that. And then Ned gets the ring, which we'll get into, which is where I'm going to get into my next part. And
well, before you get to that, I wanted to touch on the big change there of Aunt May's death in that building. Because I leaned over to Bree and I was telling her whenever, as soon as she says, with great power comes with great responsibility, I leaned over and I said, every person that said that line has died.
Yeah.
That's somebody important to them that's died.
Well,
and
again,
she's like, what? And then, but whenever you see it happen, I don't know what's with Marvel and deaths, but they make sure that it hurts really bad. Tony Stark's blank stare, I can't get out of my head. I still see it. Him just staring and everybody trying to talk to him, and he can't get the words out. This one hurt bad because it wasn't a like, hey, it's okay, like go, you're a hero, go get out there. It was, what's going on? Like she didn't know what was happening. And the fact that he had the blood on on his hands, and she's like, what's going on? He's like, no, you're fine. And she dies there. I was like, it was so heartbreaking to see.
Well, that's the thing though, and Dan, shout out to Dan for this, but Dan brought up a really good point about this, and it's basically like what he said was with Uncle Ben's death, right? It was kind of like you were more attached to Uncle Ben not from screen time. You were attached to Uncle Ben because you just know what he meant to Peter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't actually ever get to see what Uncle Ben
was like
you know what I mean, like how much he loved you. See a few scenes. This movie though, with Aunt May, is that you know how much Aunt May means to Peter. Like, and they built that for essentially like 4 movies because, counting Civil War and all those other, like they built that for all those movies. So now when you get to the last movie and it's a death, like, you know what I mean? It hurts more because it's like, oh man, we watched this character grow. Like we watched when she saw him become watched him as Spider-Man when she does the oh shit moment. Like what the, you remember, like, you know what I mean? Like you watch a lot of that stuff and you knew their relationship. So seeing that death hurts so much more because it's not a like random nameless character. Like it's a character we've seen for 4 or 5 movies at this point. So that's why that death hurts more. And it's also like, dang, like, can Peter catch a break?
Yeah, and shout out to Happy too, because whenever he pulls up, he takes it. Well, he knows he doesn't have time to mourn. He's like, okay, this sucks. I'm gonna come back to this, but for right now, like, gets out of the way, like distracts the police, tells Peter to get out of there and everything. So
also, those assholes shot Spider-Man.
I know, right? That's what Bray was saying. As soon as he caught the bullet, I was like, this is still a child. Like, what are you doing?
You know he's a kid at this point, and they still shot him. Like, what? So,
and they said how quickly it was too. It was like, we will shoot, bang. I was like, what?
You know what I mean? And it was cool. And one of the things that it was also like I love that Marvel takes intuition of this. Like, you notice that Peter didn't even have the spider senses because he just couldn't. He was so focused. Yeah. And that stuff like that is just so cool to me. And then obviously Peter goes away because he is in mourning.
And they
And
give us a
MJ,
break, a little comedy break, which was
MJ,
like the flow
yeah,
there, because I
needed.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was very heavily
MJ
needed.
and Ned are, in at Ned's house, and obviously he realized he could use the ring by accident, and then obviously he's like, "Well, let's find Peter Parker." And at this point, I'm not gonna say I knew that this was how they were going to introduce them.
Did you
Right?
think Andrew was going to come first?
I knew. Let me tell you when I knew it was Andrew. I knew it was Andrew the moment it was open and he waved, because I was like, "That's Andrew Garfield Spider-Man," like 1,000%. Because I know Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, because I am one of those people who I strongly believe Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man. Like his Spider-Man is
Good. Yeah, I get
I
what you
feel
mean.
like it's hands down the best to me.
And then
because,
Tom Holland's a good Peter Parker.
Tom Holland, no, for me, Tom Holland is just the best. He does both of them really good. Like he
Okay, I
nails
see what you're
both
saying.
of
I thought you
them.
were going to say one or the other.
Toby,
I
for
got you.
me, Toby nails the awkwardness of Peter, like that awkward feeling person. His Spider-Man to me is, I like it. And again, I think what happens with Toby Spider-Man is that because he has such cool Spider-Man moments, people don't really like. But for me, his Spider-Man it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? He just has all of the cool Spider-Man moments in his movie. But as far as like Spider-Man goes, that's Andrew Garfield for me, because Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is on point. If you watch those movies, when he tells the jokes while he's fighting, he does all the things that Spider-Man does. Like, you know what I mean? His Peter Parker, though, for me was just too cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was just too cool for school, and he wasn't the awkward Peter that we knew. Like, you know what I mean? And Tom Holland, what he does is he does both of them very well. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, he's a very good Peter Parker, and he's a very good Spider-Man. And that's why I think he's the best in that terms, only because he can nail both of those characters. But Andrew, once he does the wave, I was like, holy shit, it's Andrew Garfield, right? And like and the way his awkward running into the thing was, I was like, it's Andrew Garfield. It's Andrew Garfield. And then he comes in and then he takes off the mask and it's fucking Andrew Garfield. And the movie theater goes crazy.
Yeah, everybody in our theater was like, "Whoa!"
And that's one of those things where you can never replicate, right? Because you're watching a movie with a bunch of fans who are into the stuff that you are into. And it felt like Endgame at that point, right? Where everyone comes in, but like it's just sharing that moment with a bunch of people, like a bunch of strangers who are all freaking out with you, just fantastic, right? So he shows up, and then Zendaya, being MJ's ride or die, right? MJ, she throws some bread at him, and she's just like, he's like, that's not how it works. And he's just like, no, I'm not gonna be upset because of a bread. And then she throws another one.
Hold on, no. Shout out to Lola, the grandmother. Yeah. Whenever she's like, can you get the cobweb?
Yeah. So then he gets the cobwebs, and then she finally believes it. And then obviously they look for another Peter Parker, and this is where the emotions, like for Andrew, it you feel it,
yeah,
right? Like I felt it, and I was like, okay. But then Toby shows up.
Yeah,
and Toby shows up without the costume, and he just shows up as this hurt Peter Parker, right? Like he just shows up, and he's just like, yo, and like, and it I think it's a combination of things, right? Because Toby got so much shit, right? So much shit. And for him to like show up and do this role, that's fan service for us. Like you could say whatever you want, but like he didn't have to do that, especially with the way people treated him. Like he didn't have to come back and make this movie. And the fact that he came back and he redeemed, like he just had that feeling, like you can tell he's been through a lot, like in real life and as Peter Parker, right? Like he went through so much, and you can sense that as soon as he walks through the thing. And then they're just like, we need to find your like friend because we've been looking for him too. And then
that small moment too, when they look at each other and they're like,
yeah,
hold on, and then they try to get each other there, and they're like, oh wait. So
and that when he's like he's probably gonna go somewhere that he feels comfortable and stuff like that, and they know that because they've also dealt with that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant back when I said earlier, where now we've seen Peter deal with something that he feels like it's his fault, and the other Peter Parkers can relate to that. So them showing up, and then finally Zendaya I mean, MJ and Ned showing up and giving him a hug, and Tom Holland just being amazing at feeling broken down and crushed, and you can really feel it, right? You can
Yeah, and
feel
also in that
those
scene,
emotions.
I remember seeing an interview or something like that. I don't know if it was that scene specifically, but I feel like it was. They said that was one of the last scenes they filmed, and they realized that was the last time they were going to be working together. And that was when you see Ned crying and everything. They're upset in that moment. It wasn't just acting.
So they say. So because we're going to talk about Spider-Man, the future of Spider-Man.
Yeah. That's what I was talking to. But anyway,
yeah. So they get into that scene, and then Zendaya, MJ being the is just like she has the box, and at this point, Tom Holland's he's crushed, right? His Peter Parker is crushed, and he wants to obviously destroy everything. And then he sees the other Spider-Man, and he's basically like, they're having, and this was. And I know we usually do our favorite parts at the end, but this part right here was my favorite because it showed their trauma together, right? It showed how you need to persevere through that. And Andrew Garfield saying, like, after he lost Gwen, and I mean, even when Tom Holland's like, oh, you guys wouldn't understand. And I was like, that's the wrong people to tell them that they wouldn't understand because all of them have their own trauma. And Andrew just basically saying, I couldn't save Gwen. Like, you know what I mean? And then I stopped holding my punches because I was angry. Like, you know what I mean? And him telling that. And then, Toby saying his piece. And then, what all connected them with the great, with great power comes great responsibility. And Toby finishing that sentence really helped Tom Holland be like, oh shit, you know who I am. Like we are the same person. Like, and he's like, yeah, cause my Uncle Ben told me that. Like, you know what I mean? So that moment on that roof to me was everything I wanted. Like the movie could have ended there and I'd have been like, I'm good. Because it was just like that conversation is something that only those guys would know. Only those people, like the Peter Parker character who would know. And that whole conversation to me was amazing.
Toby definitely felt like the dad Spider-Man though. Throughout the whole, I was just like, it's like,
and I mean that's what he's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because even in Into the Spider-Verse, that's what it was his role. Even though they don't say that even though it wasn't Toby, that's the Spider-Man that is the one who teaches Miles.
Yeah,
like because of all the dancing and all that stuff, they basically break that is the Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So
and them going into the lab and starting to work.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find out their quirks and everything like that of each other. I'm glad, like everybody knew, if they didn't, it would have been crazy. The fact that they touched on Tobey Maguire shooting from his wrist, and they're like, "What the hell is that?"
Like, whoa. He's like, "Wait a second, what?" and they're just like, "Wait, that comes out of you?" And then they were like, "Wait, does it come out of anywhere else?" And he's like, "No, just my wrist."
He's like, "Do you have any blockage?"
It's like, you don't get any web-like things or nothing like that. No. Okay. Like, and then I mean, the great moment when they're just like, "Hey, Peter," and then they all like, "What?"
And they're like, "But I'm," and he's like, "Peter, Peter Parker." We're still all.
So like, I mean, it was just so wholesome. It felt so good. And then, I mean, we'll get to pretty much. I mean, the fight scene, which I don't think you could ever have asked for anything more than what we got with all the villains. I mean, you pretty much had like a miniature, Sinister Six, kind of like an Ultimate Six from the Ultimates, and just all those characters showing up and having that fight scene. And then, I mean, them doing the whole thing we talked about with the Avengers and them teaming up. But the part where I really lost it, like it was just an emotional outburst, was when they were all like, when they all run to go.
And they're like,
I was done. Like that moment, right? Like, I mean, I was laughing because of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man being hilarious, saying, "I love you guys," and the other guys not anything. That's rude, by the way.
I honestly think it was like, I feel like we're gonna hear it later of him saying like how much he actually just loves that, like he's just fans of them. And so
and he's just like, "I love you," and then they're just like,
"Thanks." And then they kept
say it back.
It's like, what?
You know what I mean?
But
then
also
when they jump off.
But before that, like the whole, I did like how they didn't have the teamwork, that they were used to working alone, and they were shooting webs everywhere and tripping each other up, and they're like, I don't know what to do here because I'm not used to this. But yeah, whenever they run and that jump, like when the moon hits and you just see all three of them up there, I was like,
and then they do they swing off of each other in one thing,
yeah.
and then they all land and they all do their poses. It was literally like everyone was cheering.
Yeah.
Like it just was just seeing that scene. I need that poster. I need the poster of them all three posing. I need it. Like it's a necessity. Someone make it for me because I need it. But then them actually getting their teamwork together and then working on it, and then like we mentioned earlier, MJ falling, and then Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saving it.
I'm still tearing. Yeah. I'm gonna hold on.
Yeah.
All right. Him doing that, I don't know what it was, right? For me, why that moment was so strong for me. But the fact that the face that he makes when he because he doesn't try to shoot the web. He fully grabs her and embraces her, brings her down, and he's holding her tight. Because he has that moment of this is what I wish would have happened. And when he looks down and he's crying, or trying not to tear up, and she's like, "You okay?" And he's like,
"Yeah."
He's like, "You okay?" And he's like,
it's wonderful acting by Andrew Garfield. But again, it shows he learned, right? He was like, "I can't shoot my web because look what happened last time. It wasn't the snapback, right?" So he learns from his mistakes and made himself faster in order to catch her, right? And having that moment, it also gives it was a sense of closure right there, right? Like he had that sense of, oh, I am able to do it. Like I do have to live with this burden that I didn't save Gwen, but I did this. Like I was able to save another Peter Parker's love interest, So that's what I felt like this movie had for both of them, and I'm so happy for Toby and Andrew because even let's say if we never see them again, right? Like as far as a movie or any of that stuff, this will be the way that we always remember them now. Like besides the the great moments that they had, but to end on such a positive closure note like this, I'm happy for them because now this is something that they can, if they decide to, they can put this on the back and be like, I was able to complete this, and everyone was happy to see it. And that's why I'm going to go a little off topic. That's why I'm also happy that Hayden Christensen is going to be able to come back in Ahsoka and stuff like that. So he can get that, because they've evolved, right? And all of them have evolved. And now that they were able to evolve and now play this role again and know what the mistakes were and things like that, they were just able to loosen up and have fun and play the role the way that they wanted to. And it was so good. It was amazing. I mean, you had the scene where, Tom Holland's Peter Parker was whipping Green Goblin.
He was putting in that work, bro. As soon as he was as soon as he flipped and he slammed down and you see the dents in the shield, I was like, he's about to get.
He wasn't holding his punches.
Yeah, he was not.
Oh, he didn't fold his punches, and then just that moment where he's gonna take the glider and he's about to take him out, and
Toby grabs it,
stopping it.
Another crying moment, cried there.
Yeah, because he's just you don't have to do this. Save yourself from becoming that person, and then
the bitch stabs him right there.
Yeah, Green Goblin had no sympathy for nobody in this movie.
I know.
He didn't care.
It was just a moment. He didn't care
about anyone.
It was just a moment, and then right after a moment, you hear "pink," and I was just like, "What the fuck?
What are you doing?" And then obviously they get the throne thing, and then he saves them. And then we also had the cool moment where Doctor Strange comes back, and he has to believe. He finally has to believe what Tom Holland was saying, because there's 3 Spider-Mans, and if you look, he does that double take where he's just like, and then he's like, it's working, because they were saving all the other ones. Yeah. They had just did Sandman, and he's just like, it is working. And then,
also, I liked how the lizard, what's his name?
I don't remember.
Okay, the lizard guy though gets another scene in the lab. That's the second time that's happened. Where, because if you guys don't remember, the Stan Lee cameo for that, and rest in peace, man. I would have loved, that would have been the icing on the cake if he could have done a cameo for this one. This one would have been perfect. But he's or no, that was the library. But there's a lab. They're fighting through the school, and they fight in a science lab. So whenever I see him jump through the portal and he's in the science lab, I'm like, it looks like a recreated scene already. Because you see, I love those shots whenever they're focusing on people getting away and you see the hero in the background just getting thrown across and they're like, get out of here, like move.
Connors, that's his name.
Connors, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really dope.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And yeah, just Doctor Strange having to see the whole thing. And then when the multiverse cracks, and I haven't caught everyone because I need a still frame, but
I only saw one that I saw Rhino. Yeah,
for sure. I know apparently Craven was in there too, according to my boy Chase. Shout out to Chase. But he said that he saw Craven. So I need a still frame of that because there's more people there that I don't know. And it's interesting that they did that to put them into that multiverse status, because it's interesting because now that before we get to the future of Spider-Man, we'll just pretty much wrap that part up. But again, and not Andrew, but again, Tom Holland gets to finally make that choice of losing everyone essentially, and it was his grown up moment where like he is finally like him and MJ are in love and all that, like all of the good stuff has happened to him, and now everyone has to forget.
Well, also in the movie, they groomed you to from the beginning of like telling him, listen, or Strange is like you're trying to live two lives here, and it's not gonna work. Like you need to pick one. All the way up to the point where Green Goblin has that moment. He's like, I saw the look in your eye. You want everything to work out for you.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of one-liners of, hey man, like you can't. You're gonna at some point, it's just not gonna work. You're not gonna have best of both worlds, and that's the life you chose. And him making that decision at the end is tough.
It was a tough one because you have to still deal with those characters, right? Because it's not like he's moving to somewhere else. No. And this is where I said, like, this is where you get that grown-up version of Tom Holland's Peter Parker, because now he understands, I have to live with this decision that I made. I wanted everyone to forget. I was actually fine with the life I had, but now that everyone knows who I am, it's a problem. But also, like, I need to be able to protect the people I love. I wasn't able to protect Aunt May because they knew who I was. So that whole decision, and you can see it at the end after everyone forgets, and he gets to see MJ for the first time. And when MJ brushes her hair back and he sees the Band-Aid,
the cut, he's like, this could have been way worse.
But it makes him wonder again, like, do I want to bring her back into this situation? Yes, I'm in love with her. And yes, I want to bring her, like, I want to be in that relationship. But also, do I want to put her in danger again? And that's a very good way to have a future of Spider-Man, because he has to live with that decision for the rest of his life, or until he decides he wants to try to pursue MJ again. And I feel like that's a really great story there to be told, because he made this decision and now he has to deal with internally, do I try to chase the person that I'm in love with, or do I continue to be Spider-Man? Because again, you can't have both. So I thought that whole thing for me is perfect. It shows how the character has grown. And then we get the old school suit, the suit that he makes. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you. That suit was so fire. I always love that Spider-Man movies end with him web swinging across. That's just like a tradition that they do. But for him to be doing it in that suit, I just want to watch it again. Like, I need this movie to be on Disney Plus so I can watch it. Like,
I'm buying the collector's
I'm buying
book.
Yeah. I'm buying everything. But yeah, the movie in total was fantastic. Getting into the future of Spider-Man, Kevin Feige has already confirmed that Marvel and Sony are actively beginning development on more Spider-Man. And Kevin Feige, this is Kevin Feige's own words, okay? Because he said this, and he said it purposely. He said, Amy and I and Disney and Sony are talking about it. Yes, we are actively beginning to develop where the story heads next, which I only say outright because I don't want fans to go through any separation trauma like what happened after Far From Home, Feige said. So he said, that's what he said. That will not be occurring this time. So there there it is. Okay, he's basically saying we are going to get more of these movies. I do believe that we will have a break from these movies. Like I don't think we'll see Spider-Man for a while, which I think is.
Well, I also
is
saw
warranted.
Tom. I don't know how true it is, but Tom Holland said he wants a break. Also,
He said he wants to start a family.
yeah,
and,
so he wants a
I
break
don't
from
blame him.
acting. But yeah,
I mean, when you are, in a relationship with Zendaya,
you gotta lock it down.
So I believe everyone in the audience feels the same way. So yeah, so I do think we need a break though. We just had this whole emotional outburst. You know what I mean? So a good break from Spider-Man. Let's develop some other characters along the way. Let's get Daredevil all set up again, which kind of sucks when you think about it, because now Matt Murdock technically has forgotten who Peter Parker was, and that's kind of like, you know what I mean? But he did it for the good, and then we go to the funeral scene where, him and Happy are having that conversation, and I know that also broke his heart, because it's like,
well, he's waiting to see. He's waiting for Happy to react.
And he doesn't, and it's like, man, he's really by himself.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have his aunt, and like I said, it goes back to that grown up moment for Peter Parker, and I think they did a fantastic job there.
Also, I was thinking, do you think Nick Fury is going to look for him again? I know he's off planet. That was a very quick thing there. He's like, he's been off planet for a year, and he's like, what?
So that's the interesting thing I found from that. I feel he says everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Nick Fury is off,
but Brie, sorry to interrupt too. Brie also said, did he say in the world or did he say in the universe? Like everyone?
No, he said everyone's going to forget.
Okay, cool. All right, making sure.
So again, where does that look? Because the thing is, you have to remember, no one can. I don't believe anyone can remember him, because you have to remember that if he's saying everyone and it worked for the multiverse, there's no way that it can't work for everybody else. Like, no matter where you are. So no one knows who Spider-Man is, essentially.
But they know Spider-Man. They know Spider-Man.
They know who Spider-Man is. They don't know that it's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the interesting thing. And then we get to the first mid-credit scene with Venom. And which is great, because he's trying to discover, and he's wasted at this point. Both of them are. And he's trying to figure out what all these superhero stuff means, because he's like, there's a bunch of people here with power, and the bartender is trying to explain it to him.
You had a guy in a suit fly around and find a purple alien. He's like,
yeah. He's like, and aliens, they eat people. He's like, they eat people. So it was really funny. And then obviously he gets transported back. And then they leave the symbiote, a piece of the symbiote, which I called, and Jacqueline will be my witness. I called that to the T. And the reason why I knew they were going to do that was because what would be the point? Like, it's a great way to introduce a Venom style character without having to do the whole origin again.
Yeah.
So it's just like, leave a piece of it back. Don't do anything else with it. And it, because also my brother brought out a really good point, where it's like, that Venom is not going to fit in the MCU. First of all, he's too dangerous, he's too reckless, and he would eat Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? So that whole thing is not necessary. So bringing just a piece of it into the world, and then you could still have it have like a little bit of the personality, now that it'll be a little toned down, because it's just a piece of that Venom, and it's not the one with this Eddie Brock. I think that works really well for moving forward. And then we had the end credit scene that pissed me off. And
because the end credit scene was not an end credit scene, it was a trailer.
Let me walk you through my reaction. As you guys know, I don't watch trailers. I do this purposely because I don't need to get any more excited for the movie that I know I'm going to go watch. If you want to watch trailers, be my guest. That's fine. I don't care. Do you? This is my thing. The fact that they showed a whole ass trailer for an end credit scene. Why did they do that? First of all, you didn't have to do that.
It was just...
I'm watching this and I'm like, hold on. I didn't start to notice, and then I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe they're going to cut this at Wanda, right? I was like, we're going to see Wanda, and that's it. And then they cut to another scene, and I was like, this is a fucking trailer. I was, my blown.
I wish I was there to see that.
I got
Oh
so
man.
mad. I instantly closed my eyes because I didn't want to watch any of it. So after Wanda, I don't know what happened, and don't tell me what happened
won't
because
tell
I
you.
don't want to know.
But I thought it was a cool. Okay, even though you're upset, it is a dope idea.
No,
That hold on, it is a dope. Because I think an official trailer will come out, but it was
it's
cool.
gonna be the same thing.
I don't think so.
Yes, it will be. I can guarantee.
Because this one was broken. This thing felt very weird for a trailer.
This is going to be the first teaser trailer that you see of Doctor Strange. They're just going to wait until 2 or 3 weeks from now, and they're going to drop this. And they're going to drop it as an official trailer because not like they're going to drop it as a teaser trailer
Probably
so that they can get all those views on it as a trailer.
Yeah.
They're not going to keep this as the end credit scene because then you know what's going to happen. People are going to start recording it, and then people are going to put it on their YouTube, and then like Marvel and Disney are going to be like, no, screw that. We're just going to drop it.
Yeah, true.
And if you don't want, like, that's what's going to happen.
But it was a cool idea that in order to see it right now, you have to go see the movie and sit through. I thought that was a cool idea.
Again,
I felt bad for you. As soon as I saw it, I was like, because I was sitting there, I was like, this is a trailer. And as soon as I said this is a trailer, I thought of you, and I was like, oh.
I was upset because, again, you don't need to do that. They could have literally stopped that at Wanda. They could have stopped that Wanda saying, Wanda, we need your help. That could have been, because remember, in some of the end credit scenes, they did actual scenes of the movie. Because remember, Civil War did that.
Dang it, dude! You didn't. Okay.
What?
Because there's a thing in it that I want to talk to you about, because we've talked about this, and even Bree was excited for us to talk about it, and now I can't talk to you about it, and it sucks.
What is it?
Okay.
What is it?
You remember the What If Doctor Strange episode?
Yes. I already know he's going to be in there.
Okay.
Because again, and the reason why I already didn't see that part in the trailer, but I already knew What If Doctor Strange was going to be in there because it only makes sense. It's the multiverse of madness.
Yeah.
Like I would have felt a certain way if he's not in there, because if with the way that they've already been showing the connection with the TV shows and stuff like that, because they're now doing, like, my thing is, I'm very interested to know the people who haven't watched WandaVision and expect to watch
You're
Doctor
lost.
Strange 2.
Good luck.
I don't know what. I would love to know someone's opinion.
And I said, I told Bree also, we gotta watch
WandaVision.
She has to watch Loki, because I guarantee you that'll be the end credit scene of the next one, or he'll show up. Something. It's getting to that point. Yeah. But the cool thing also, Bree has only watched one episode of What If, and it was that one. And she's like, as soon as I saw him, I was immediately thinking like, well, now I gotta explain this to her.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, that's the guy from What If. I was like, you watched that episode? She said, yeah, that's the only one I watched. I was like, oh, thank God.
So the way that they're connecting the TV shows and making this a universe, it's nice for the people who are watching everything. I feel like it's a really cool way to incentivize people to. But again, Kevin Feige himself said you must watch WandaVision before you watch. Like, he wanted you to watch WandaVision even before you watch Spider-Man.
Yep.
Just so you could understand parts of what the multiverse was. And I feel like watch a couple of episodes of What If, because if you looked at the cracks, the way that was, it was exactly the way they did it in What If.
Yeah.
Like, so all of that stuff is it's being connected, and I feel like you're gonna start getting punished if you're not watching some of this stuff. So
yeah. Also, the fact that we've been watching Hawkeye, which you need to watch. We've been watching Hawkeye, and the fact that it's like the small things, man. There was a snippet of like, oh, visit the Statue of Liberty. Mm-hmm. Like the new Statue of Liberty. And I was like, what? And then you see it in this movie. I was like, oh, okay, crap. Yeah, so I thought that was really cool. Especially that we just saw that last week, and then we are seeing it. You know, the movie came out this week.
They're connecting the things.
Exactly. And they're doing a great job. It's a lot of fun. If you're not watching the shows, man, going into the movies, you're missing out, man. It feels so good to like have that. Oh, like it clicks of everything connecting together.
But also with WandaVision, Spider-Man, and what's going to be Multiverse of Madness, that's something like that is a trilogy within itself, because it's very multiverse oriented. and I feel like you need to watch it. And Feige said you need to watch it. And Feige said you need to watch it, then you need to watch it. Period.
Also, shout out to Tobey Maguire laying on the ground, and he's like looking up, and he's like, "Am I dead or is this happening?" He's like, "No, it's happening." I felt so bad. I feel like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man has a sense of relief going back of like, I don't want anything to do with what's going on over there. He can keep that.
And another moment I loved was like, are you just gonna dress her like, are you gonna fight crime dressed as like and then he's like I got the suit. And then one other moment, that the hug that they give each other, like at the end when he's like saying his goodbyes and they give that hug, like it just felt like that was like a generation hug. You know what I mean? Like there's 3 generations.
Well, those two inspired him. It inspired him in real life. He talks about how much he was a Spider-Man fan. So that hug, I mean, going into like our favorite moment, that was one of my favorite moments of the movie. It was him being like not knowing what to say, and he's like, "Thank you guys," and he hugs them. I was just like, man, this is great for him.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And again, my favorite moment, like I said, was that ceiling scene. Them on the roof, just really explaining how they felt and like trying to console Peter, and they did. Like essentially, they did understand. Yes, but this is what we do. Like they said at the end of the movie, after the hug, it was like, this is what we do. Like,
this one I have.
Spider-Man prevails. You know what I mean? That's what he does. He fights all of those bad things, and he does he fights for us. And I thought that was just. It was just a chef's kiss.
I'm gonna name 2 other ones real quick because this one deserves. It was so much. So the hug, Andrew Garfield scene will forever be stuck in my mind. Of me thinking about it just puts me in my feels. And then also them getting the brother moment whenever he's just like, "Oh, I've always wanted brothers." Them getting to mess around a little bit in the lab. And just kind of be comfortable with one another and try to fit. Like it's just a little bit of fun in the midst of the chaos. It's just like, okay, this is really cool though. Like I understand we're trying to save what's going on, but at the fact this can't go unnoticed. So, yeah,
a lot of great stuff. And again, Chris and I are going to do our rankings, and this is going to be a really good ranking for this. So
I'm telling you, I feel like Spider-Man should be.
Listen, I actually have an interesting way we're going to do it. I'll talk to Chris about that before we let you guys know, but I think you guys are going to like it. So, but with that said, we gave you guys our favorite moments. We got to geek out about Spider-Man. If you haven't watched the movie, like we said, we did just do a bunch of spoilers, so I hope you watched it before getting to this.
If you got to this point and you haven't watched this movie,
bro. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. We warned you. We warned you. It's definitely a 10 out of 10. It was everything I wanted in that movie. So it was amazing, just like all the Spider-Man adjectives. But if you guys like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe. We are still doing that mouse giveaway. We want to give you guys this. Chris says we want to give you stuff.
Let us give you stuff.
So we will be back on Tuesday to be doing the show. Well, hold on. We'll be back sometime next week to do the show because we're not sure what the schedule is. But we will have a show for you.
We are going to have a show
at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. And then next week we do have Hawkeye for the debrief. So
the finale. Yes.
Then I think. Yeah, and then I think we're doing Matrix, right? Are we doing Matrix? And then
hell yeah, we doing Matrix. I mean, Matrix is gonna be a trip.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a trip.
And then we have Book of Boba after, like, for next week. So
oh yeah, we're bringing in the new year strong, baby.
We're bringing in the stuff. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until we see you guys next time, Fire Team out.